Good evening, Simon here, Explosive Action, and I'm here for another metal update. This time we're doing CDs, and in the background, and the first CD that we are listening to is the classic Armored Angel, Angel of the Sixth Order, on Warhead Records, the original disc, which is in the machine obviously now that we're playing. Came out in, I think it was about 97 or so. Just a classic Australian band. It's death metal, it's thrash metal, but it's kind of got that. Well, it's a very Australian sound that bands like Destroyer 666 have. It's not thrashy in a black metal sense, but it's good, solid death metal in the Australian style. The original Warhead Records press. I was very stoked to pick that one up in the wild. So that's the first one, and what we're listening to. I'm fairly embarrassed. I didn't have this. I don't know what happened. Obituary, Cause of Death, completely absent from my collection. It just never happened. I just never bought the thing. I've got Slowly We Rot, and in the past I've had World Demise, and I've had The End Complete, but I got over those ones. But what I was missing was Cause of Death. I even saw the band live last year. No, earlier this year. It seems like a world ago. In Sydney, and they played this album back to front. They just played the whole thing, and it was amazing. And I didn't own it, so now I do. So this is the original Road Racer, well, the RC edition. You all know Cause of Death. This is just quintessential American death metal, Tampa, Florida. Fantastic stuff. Easily their best album, and I'm just stoked to have it, and hitting myself for not getting it before. Don't know what was wrong with me, it just didn't happen. Asgaroth, the EP, The Quest for Elendor, whatever. This is an old, who put this out? Repulse Records, in association with Requiem Records, put this out in the late 90s. This is one that I remember hearing in the early days of the internet. I must have been on some website, and I saw this cover, and I listened to a small excerpt of one of the tracks. I don't remember which one it was, and I really liked it, and could never find it locally, and then kind of forgot about it for a very long time. It's it's melodic black metal. It's got some sort of symphonic bits going on. Very late 90s sound, and I think it's about 96 or so when this came out, something along those lines. And I found it on Discogs from the same seller as the Obituary, so Australian seller. Everything here in this pile is either picked up in a shop in Australia or Australian Discogs. I'm not importing at the moment. I'll get into that when I get to my record update, but anyway. All Australian sourced stuff, so very happy to pick up Asgaroth, The Quest for Elendor, which I'm probably getting wrong. Just an EP, that's 5 tracks, really good. Found this one, I don't know much about this, I found this in the shops. This is Sauron, Thrash Assault. It sounds like that cover. It is just rabid black thrash. Only 7 tracks, the last one's a creator cover of Total Death. That itself should tell you what this sounds like. It does what it says on the tin, it's just rabid black thrash. There's the photos of the guys there. Paid about $7 in a shop for this. Kind of a strange thing to find in a non-metal shop, just sort of there. Okay, gave it a go. Pretty good. First track is called Thrash Till Death. You know what this sounds like without even having heard it. As you do when I show you this cover, you know exactly what this sounds like. This is Lymphatic Phlegm, and what a cover that is, with Pathogenesis Infest Phlegm Sepia. Yeah, there you go. This is Gore Grind. Really? You didn't guess? Yeah, this is Gore Grind. Lymphatic Phlegm are one of those crazy little drum machine gore grind bands that I had a partial obsession with, but then never picked anything up from. Their stuff was kind of hard to find. Look at this thing. It's got 31 tracks. I could zoom in like that. You probably still aren't going to read any of them. This makes Carcass look like Metallica. This is just crazy, crazy gore grind. The vocals are pitch shifted to hell. They are just down there. It's not for everybody. Short, sharp songs, incredibly gory, obviously, and the lyrics, the song titles, Let's pick some out. We got mechanisms of neutropenia involving malignant myeloid maturation. It's a tasty number. And we've got large intestine segmental edematous ileopathia. This is gore grind. Oh, I'm not even showing the inside. It gets worse. So anyway, that is lymphatic phlegm. I don't need much gore grind in the collection. This is sort of like a good... This will cover it when I'm in that mood. I just want to blast out some drum machine gore grind. Lymphatic phlegm. Mangled, Ancient Times. German band, I think. This is from Pavement Music. I got this for the price of postage, which is nice, from a friend of mine, because it doesn't have a back cover. This is actually just a printout using a Discogs image art, so which comes out fair enough. You know, it's not too bad. Original booklet and the original CD just didn't have a back cover, so I paid 2 stamps and I got the CD. Yeah, it's really good, solid death metal. I've got their previous album. There's nothing much to write home about. It's just really good, solid German-sounding death metal from the late 90s. Mangled with Ancient Times. Worth checking out. Sinister, Aggressive Measures. Padding out some more of my Sinister. This is, I think this is the first album after Hate. I think that's right. So this is when everything sort of changed for the band. The original vocalist left, and they sort of started to redevelop the sound a bit. It still sounds pretty similar to Hate, but it's going in a bit more of that modern sound that bands like Hate Eternal would pick up later on. But it's still Sinister. You know, it's still good. Just not as good as it's not. You're not going to get Cross the Sticks or Diabolical Summoning every album. Some of the albums they did after this were pretty average, and then they picked up again in the 2010s with some good stuff. But yeah, Aggressive Measures. Just happy to pick this one up. Original Nuclear Blast. A couple of bucks. This is Molested. Great name for a band. With Blood Durham. I think it's Durham. Blood Durham. And yeah, I can't remember where these guys are from. Probably Germany as well. Anyway, these guys play a really, really interesting brand of death metal. It's... I don't think progressive is the right term. It's got a kind of otherworldly sound to it. But some of those 90s bands that... Oh, I'm not really sure where to take this. They sound like themselves. Molested's quite an interesting band. As far as I know, all they did was this. This is the Dark Symphonies, Dark Descent reissue. Interesting thing about it, they did 2 versions of the mix, and they're both on this CD. So it starts with the first 9 tracks are the remix version of the album, and then tracks 10 through 18 are the original mix. So if you don't like the remix, just skip to track 10 and play from there. I prefer the original sound. It's got a more of a tinnier sound that was of the era, and the remix has got a bigger drums and bigger everything, which sounds good and sounds modern, but it's not what this band sounded like. Yeah, it's a hard band to describe, but definitely Molested and their album. It is Blood Drawn. That's the name of it. So this is, yeah, Dark 77 on Dark Descent and Dark Symphonies. Well worth picking them up. Crypt of Kerberos, collection of demos and 7 inches and things. This is good. Their main album is, what's it called? In Between Worlds or something? I'm not going to bother picking it out of the shelf. I can't remember what it's called. The main album is really good, but this is just a collection of stuff. Demo from 1991, a promo from the same year, the Cyclone of Insanity EP, Visions Beyond Darkness EP, and Into the Ruins EP. So these guys play sort of an early Swedish death metal sound of the melodic style, but without going all in flames on you. It's still quite sort of rough at the edges. Really good stuff. Yeah, Crypt of Kerberos. Don't think they're around anymore. Pretty sure they're not. But you get 17 tracks. It's definitely worth your money. And this is number Dark 89 on that label. And yeah, Crypt of Kerberos. If you're only a casual fan, stick to the album, but if you liked what you hear, pick it up. This is really good. Apoplexy, band from Slovakia. This is Monarchy of Damned. They did 2 albums. This is the second one. The first album, I've got the original press of, which apparently is my most expensive CD. Seems to be going for about $600 or $700. Completely bananas. This is the first CD issue ever of this album, their follow-up. Originally issued on cassette only, just tape, that's it. So yeah, really happy that Dark Symphony's managed to resurrect this thing onto CD. It's just as good as the original. Really interesting death metal sound. They're not quite going into demolic territory, but they're approaching it a little bit. Quite a sort of technical sound, but not technical death metal. I think that makes sense. Yeah, so it's 8 tracks, Slovakian death metal, really good. Monarchy of Damned, another one from Dark Symphonies from 2018. This is Dark 106, and definitely worth picking up. Like I said, it was only ever on cassette before, no LP. I don't know where the hell this band comes from, but they're really, really good. Kind of similar actually to Apoplexy in a way. This is Summertime Daisies. What a terrible name for a death metal band. The album is the Clarity of Impurity. The cover itself is, I like it, but it's kind of crap. Admittedly, that's a crap cover, but I do like it. When did this originally come out? It doesn't say. It'll be like 94 or something along those lines. You can tell why this band did it. They were a one and done. They did this and that was the end of it because of their stupid name. This is like, Are You Dead territory. Or like Jumpin' Jesus. I don't know why they picked it, but anyway. It's a shame because it's really interesting death metal stuff. You get 8 tracks and you get their 2 demos at the end of it, which is all they ever did, as far as I know. So, yeah, really interesting sound. You get a little opie strip as well. Definitely go check these guys out. It should be really cheap to get it. Even the original pressing of this doesn't go for stupid money. Because they're just an underappreciated band, but yeah, hopefully this reissue here on Dark Symphonies, this is Dark 62, hopefully it does them some help. Next one, Astaroth. This is a technical thrash band. These guys are really, 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 really good. Again, another one where the original won't cost you too much, relatively, but why pay for that when you can get this for a tenner? Yeah, just really, really interesting. It's got the basses right up there, kind of a coroner thing going on. Yeah, technical thrash, Gloomy Experiments from Astaroth. Yeah, you get, and I prefer when Dark Symphonies do this, where you get the album untouched on disc 1, and disc 2, which is not wanting to turn, is when you get the demos and stuff. I prefer when they do that rather than stick them on the end. Totally worth your time. Really, really interesting technical thrash. The band looks so young as well. I don't know how old they were in this, but yeah, I'm seeing some pretty young faces there. So Astaroth, Gloomy Experiments, recommended. And the next one we've got here is a double CD. This is the original pressing too. 2 Dutch death doom bands. This is Eternal Solstice and Mourning. I was really lucky to get this one for a pretty reasonable price. It goes for a bit. It says the inside there from Mourning. Yeah, mid-90s death doom. Bit more on the death side than the doom side. Really big, thick, fat sound from both bands. The Eternal Solstice stuff is probably the better. Yeah, you get 4 tracks from them and 5 tracks from Mourning. So this is the original press from... Who put this thing out? It's not even written on the back. It's got no barcode. From... I don't know who put this thing out. It says MID. I should know. Anyway, the reason I got this cheap, which doesn't faze me whatsoever, was for whatever reason, somebody's written in Texter in the middle. Now, it's hard to make out what it says, but the story I got from the seller was he got this from a friend that used to work at Modern Invasion. Modern Invasion Australian label. Distributor that famous for putting yellow triangle stickers on the back of everything, and that somebody at the label wrote in the middle of the booklet for whatever reason, and I guess it's entirely possible. So whatever. doesn't affect the CD or the rest of it. That's it. That's Eternal Solstice and Morning quality Death Doom from the Netherlands on both bands. So I need to get Morning's album. I would like to get that. We have here Frozen Shadows with a title in French that I have no chance of trying to say. Dans les bras des immortales. Sure, whatever. I've got that wrong. French Canadian, and sound like a lot of the French Canadian bands. Really icy. Sort of sound like Fortress and bands like that, but this was before any of them. I had this back in possibly 20 years ago, and I've lost it. Don't know what happened to it. Recently I picked up the album that came before it, and it reminded me that I used to have this, so I was very happy to get this again for $5 from a very nice person on Facebook. Get the Quebec little flag there, which is very cool. Yeah, if you just like any French Canadian black metal band, they all have a flavour, and this flavour is Frozen Shadows, surely, on Sepulchral Productions in Quebec. So there you go. Definitely worth checking this out. Great band. Two here from Isegrim. This is a band that Brain Smasher talked about on one of his previous videos. It is just completely relentless, furious, sort of like right on the nose 2000 style blasting black death metal. It's black metal, but when it's so fast and heavy, it's got that death metal edge to it. Right on 2000 on Massacre Records. So I picked up the LP based on what he said, and I found a local seller and they had it, but it was only in fair condition, and unfortunately it sounds fair condition. But I found a CD seller as well that had this for about 10 Australian, I think. They're not a band you're going to pay money for. Very underappreciated. That's like this look. How 2000 is that? It's like every band just said, we're going to do the back of Emperor's Anthems album, and we're going to do our version of it, and that's Isegrim here. So as well as the album, I got the EP, the self-titled EP. It comes from the year before, I think, and yeah, same deal, more stuff. There's a Modern Invasion triangle for you, and yeah, it's just furious, blasting black death metal. Great stuff. This has got some quality late 90s Photoshop embossing on that text, pardon me, which is just hilarious. In nomine magni Dei nostri Satanas. Great stuff. Isegrim. I was so happy to get this one. This is the best Vital Remains album. Let Us Pray. Original pressing on Def Records. Def 9 CD, very early on. Paid a little bit of money for this, but nothing too outrageous. So at this point in time, they were quite a different band. Everybody's familiar with Vital Remains' later era with like Glenn Benton on vocals and To Christianize, and that was just a furious assault, twin guitar solos and everything. This sounds more like early Benediction, or early American equivalent of something like that. It's a really different sound. I fucking love this album. This album's great. Yeah, so like I said, it's the original Def Records press. The cheesy, cartoony cover just really helps sell it as well. That's great. So it was a guy called Jeff Groslin on vocals back then, so obviously not Glenn. Yeah, it's just great. This is just solid, straight-ahead death metal. It's got a, you know, it doesn't sound like Bolt Thrower, but when I say it's got a vibe like Bolt Thrower, or a vibe like early Obituary or something, does that help? It's faster, but it's just solid, straight-up death metal. It doesn't go to that furious range that they were doing on the later albums. Even like Dawn of the Apocalypse, which was I think the third album, they were getting way more furious in their sound. This is far more laid back, and it's great. Let Us Pray. And followed up with that, I got Into Cold Darkness, which is also quite rare to get now. Bit more sign here of them getting a heavier sound. Actually, that sounds like early Deicide. I think that's a good example. And this is like more and more on top of that original sound. It's just getting more aggressive, more intricate in the style, but it's still not quite where they got to with like Dawn of the Apocalypse and the later albums. Into Cold Darkness, very evil looking there. What year is this one from? 95. This is the Peaceful Press original one, I think, as well. I need a new case, it's a bit broken up. Yeah, great stuff from Vital Remains. Really happy to get these two. So now I've got the four that I want. Forever Underground and Dawn of the Apocalypse. The Glenn Benton stuff. All you need is the opening track from To Christianize, which is an epic track. But once you've heard that track, you don't need the rest. Anyway. Benediction, speaking of them. This is Subconscious Terror, their first album. One that I was missing from the collection. Back when Barney Greenway from Napalm Death was doing vocals, and there he is there in the middle. This is just classic stuff. It's not very well thought of, probably because of the production. It sounds like it's recorded in a tin can, but it really grows on you. After the first track, you just fall into the sound, and yeah, I think it really works, to be honest. Case is a bit crap, and down the case for this one as well. Yeah, so original Nuclear Blast press, German press, I think, on this one. So yeah, it's Benediction's first album. Very happy to get it. Everybody knows what they sound like. That bit of a spooky sound going on in this first album. They kind of dropped it a bit later and just went a bit more straight ahead, like Bolt Thrower. But there's some spooky shit going on, I think. Subconscious Terror. So anyway, recommended, and I'm very happy to have it. Two more to go, and I'm losing my voice. We have Crisian Apocalyptic Revelation. Man, this may as well be a grind album. It just doesn't stop. It's just a blast fest. The drumming is a one-note chord. It's just bang, 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 bang. Kicks just don't stop. Bang, 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 bang. Which is why you only need one Crisian album, and that's why it's this one. You only need one album from Crisian, and this is the one you want to get. Yeah, Apocalyptic Revelation. It's the same song for 10 tracks, 4 minutes long. It's good. It's fine. I'm making it sound bad, but I saw them live. I think it was just on a year ago, and they were boring as hell. It was such a boring live set that I skipped out. They were on before. Was that the Incantation? I think it was the Incantation show. They were on before Incantation. I just went, no, I'm going to go get a burger. 2 tracks of this is enough. And their later era stuff is not good anyway. They added more groove to it. Not what you want. But yeah, look, it's just furious death metal. Really fast and very Brazilian. So there you go. That's Crisian Apocalyptic Revelation. This is not the original. This is a Century Media 1998 press. So there you go. And the last one. I probably should have reversed everything, because this is not like a big, wow, amazing rare record. Nope. This is the censored version of Cannibal Corpse's Bloodthirst. I got this for really cheap, about $10 or something. I like Bloodthirst, but for some reason the last CD of Cannibal Corpse I owned was Gallery of Suicide, which I rate highly, and is also the censored cover. And I didn't have Bloodthirst, and now I do. It was very cheap. So I don't know if they did this anywhere else in the world, but in the late 90s, early 2000s, there was a problem with the cover art in Australia for Cannibal Corpse. They were all kind of banned, and they had all these variants of what they were allowed to do. So this is not the version you'll get worldwide, but I actually kind of like that cover. It's not as ridiculously gory, but you know, it's fine. You don't get the lyrics. So the booklet is just this thing. It just says credits. There's nothing in there, and that's annoying. Somebody somewhere decided that the world would collapse upon itself if Australians had an uncensored copy of Bloodthirst. You know, it doesn't matter now. Of course, you can go and buy it. Go to Utopia Records right now and get it uncensored. I'm quite sure, and it's not censored with bleeps or anything ridiculous. It's just the cover art. So there you go. Yeah, if you like where they went with Vile and Gallery of Suicide, Bloodthirst is the next follow-up. And that's that. That is the CD update, and we're listening to Armored Angel in the background. Thanks for watching. See you next time.